Hello, everyone. My name is Karen Mayfield-Felton, and you are here with Feet Planted LLC. As you can tell from my background, we are celebrating Women's History Month. And as I stated in my previous post, I have some heavy hitters that I want to introduce you to. My friends, some of them are strangers, but this particular young lady is a friend of mine, and I am excited to introduce you to Dr. Marcy Rice. So you're going to hear a lot of great things about her, and I hope that you stay tuned because she's going to share a lot of great information. If you're not familiar with Feet Planted LLC, the reason that I started this channel is so that I can encourage students to pursue STEM and to succeed in life by sharing transparently my story, and as you can see, the stories of others. So please like and subscribe so that you can stay tuned for my content and find me on other social media platforms so that you can see posts and get information about upcoming events in STEM, scholarships, fellowships, and the like. Okay, without further ado, I am going to introduce you to Dr. Marcy Rice. Say hi, Marcy. Dr. Rice.
Thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of your Women's History Month, and hello to all of your subscribers and viewers.
Thank you so much. So okay, this is gonna be challenging. I call her Marcy because I know her, but I believe in giving due where there is due. She earned that degree, so we're gonna say Dr. Rice or Dr. Marcy. We're just gonna go with Dr. Marcy. So let's get started, and I have the pleasure of again reading her bio to you as I have done for everybody else, and then we're going to get into some questions. So here we go. Dr. Marcy Rice Terry is entering her 14th year in education. Prior to discovering her true passion for educating tomorrow's leaders and today's leaders, she pursued a career as a published biochemist. So because I know we have chemistry in common, I have my little chemistry mug clink. I have to give kudos to Black and Kim. They sent that to me. I won something, but I love chemistry, so I have to nod to it. All right, let's continue. She began her teaching career in DeKalb County Public Schools in Decatur, Georgia, as a chemistry teacher and was named Teacher of the Year in 2010. She currently serves as the principal at Monarchs at Meadowbrook High School in Chesterfield County Public Schools. Throughout her educational career, she's had an opportunity to serve students across the spectrum in terms of educational need and socioeconomic background. Dr. Rice has presented at local, regional, and national conferences, of course, because she's amazing. She has been featured on Abstract and Metropolitan Regional and national conferences. Let me make sure I did that right. She has been featured, I apologize, on Abstract and Metropolitan Educational Research Consortium with the acronym MERC podcast. In addition, Dr. Rice has also collaborated with MERC to author a brief entitled A Review of Disciplinary Interventions in K-12 Public Education. She is a native of Brunswick County, Virginia, and a graduate of Hampton University, where she received her bachelor's, Georgia Tech, where she received her master's, and Virginia State University, where she received her EDD. She has 2 children and resides in Chester, Virginia. Can we welcome to the floor, Dr. Marcy Rice? Yeah, I'm gonna applaud. Yeah, you can applaud.
Thank you.
I am so happy. So I have the honor of being able to know you before you became Dr. Rice. And I know that you have a passion for students, you have a passion for science, and we're going to learn a little bit more about how you develop that passion. So before we get to all of that, can you tell us what type of student were you?
That's an interesting question. I guess if I were to answer the question, based on kind of some adjectives or keywords, I think I was a very inquisitive student, but also a very confident student at the same time. Obviously, I come from a family of educators, so before I started school, I was reading and writing, so I felt very comfortable in the educational setting. I think I looked for opportunities to be a leader and to shine, I guess, if you will, from an educational standpoint. I played a few sports in high school, but I'm not the athlete. So the classroom was my place to really shine. So I think if I had to sum it up, I would say that I was inquisitive, but confident.
That's good. I tell students all the time, curiosity, especially in the sciences, is a plus. And so that's a good way to describe you as a curious student. Talk to us about who influenced you to pursue science. There's a biochemistry, chemistry background in there. So what led you to even be interested in that?
Wow, that's a question that comes with a very lengthy answer. So growing up, my father's family farmed tobacco and also raised livestock. And so I was always around science, whether it was, being out in the fields with my dad and my grandfather, or being around my godbrothers and my cousins who were members of the 4-H club. And so becoming a member of the 4-H club was something that I definitely aspired to. I actually met with one of my cousins recently, and he shared his experience being on the soil judging team in high school. And I was actually on the soil judging team in middle school. So for those of you that are not familiar with 4-H, it definitely has a very strong agricultural background. And so science was very much a part of my world. I remember my first grade science fair project, where I believe I grew some plants of some kind. And some of them were in vinegar water, some of them were in water with baking soda. And I remember my mom and my grandfather helping me with that project and talking about pH and its effect on plant growth. So having a large farm as my playground, again, fueled my curiosity. We also had a garden. And so I was always asking questions about the process of farming, of raising livestock. And so it was very much a part of my world. I initially wanted to be a veterinarian growing up because I loved animals. I actually toyed with the idea of becoming a herpetologist and specializing in reptiles because I love snakes. But once I got to high school and really found my niche with chemistry, I consider myself to be pretty decent in math. I found that balance and that love for the lab setting and conducting experiments. And so I had a great chemistry professor in high school, Dr. Dewey Williams at the Governor's School for Economics and Global Technology. Global economics and technology. And so she really pushed me to consider chemistry as a career field because it would allow me to continue to pursue my passion for science, but in terms of specializing further down the road, whether that was medicine or engineering or anything else more specific, I would have laid that foundation as a chemistry major.
That is really good. So you gave us the trajectory from starting at a young age all the way through what influenced you. So students and parents, I say this all the time, let's talk about a few things that she mentioned that I thought was great. In the yard, grass and trees and dirt and farming and growing things that are in nature. So we're in an environment where a lot of us as STEM professionals and as educators are trying to encourage students to embrace STEM and to be curious. And what you just heard, folks, is that she's in her backyard. So you STEM kits are great, don't get me wrong, but there are things in nature, there are things that are around us that can inspire and help us just look a little further into materials and how things are grown. And I just think that's really great that you had those inputs around you and that you were interested. And then that was further fostered with your own curiosity and wanting to know more. That resonates with me as well. And I'm sure other professionals. So that is not where you stayed, as I read in your bio, not only are you using the science, but you are now an administrator. You are in a school, starting as a teacher of the year, and now you have risen to the rank, if I could say that, of principal. What led you to want to pursue that as part of your career?
Well, to make a long story short, post-college, I moved to Atlanta to pursue my studies further in biochemistry. I really took a liking to that course in the undergraduate setting and felt like my research interest aligned with that area. And so after receiving my master's in biochemistry, I wanted to continue to pursue science and be in the field of science, but I wanted to do that with more social interaction. And so during my summers, I would, come home and I would work with summer youth programs. And so I thought that that would be a component that I would like to explore. And so that's what led me to begin to teach chemistry. I taught chemistry, anatomy, AP environmental science, AP chemistry. I taught everything but physics. Physics is not my love. But science, overall, love it. And so I taught those science courses and really enjoyed being able to impact young lives. And I wanted to be able to expand the realm and spectrum of my influence in the educational setting, and felt that moving into administration would be the best way to do that. And so here I am 14 years later, proud principal of Meadowbrook High School in Chesterfield County, Virginia, where we continue to hold STEM in high esteem. We're actually the home of the premier Claude Moore Scholars Program, which is a partnership we have with Bon Secours, where students can complete a sequence of courses to become certified nursing assistants, pharmacy technicians, or medical billing and coding specialists. So we are truly, again, continuing to hold that STEM flag high, because we know that our students are capable of performing at high levels and continuing to move us forward as a global society through that work.
That is great. That is great. The programs at that level have had to grow and expand as our world has changed. In celebrating Women's History Month, you talked about growing up. I know Brunswick, Virginia, country town, similar to where I'm from, maybe a little more country, but that's another that's another topic. On to high school, on to college, and then now into education. Can you talk a bit about how you've seen the landscape change for women in those spaces?
I think that's a very interesting question when we talk about, the change of that landscape. I think when we think initially about what that setting looks like, what that environment looks like, we don't see ourselves. We don't see the presence of women in those settings. But I truly believe that when we talk about research, it's important to have a diverse group of perspectives and experiences that are brought to the table. I think that can only allow research to occur in its most authentic way, because we're looking for innovative ideas and thoughts to emerge for the purpose of solving a problem. Or, if we think larger, for the purpose of, positively impacting human lives or our global society. So I think over time, with certain initiatives that encourage women to get involved in science, I think that has helped to change the landscape. I know when I was in high school, I attended a summer program that Virginia Tech has specifically to expose young girls to the different areas of engineering. And so I think different initiatives like that can help to introduce and expose women to STEM fields and careers that they may not have initially considered. While at Hampton, I was a part of the Marks Scholars Program, again, allowing us as students to explore different research topics of interest while continuing with our studies. So I think as we continue to allow for opportunities for women to see themselves in those settings, to introduce them to new possibilities outside the traditional thought pattern of what research looks like, of what STEM looks like, I think that we will see that lane open up more. I think if we look from a commercial standpoint, if we think about, let's say, the last 20 years, specifically for African American women, we've seen a boom in the natural hair movement. And what we have seen, from beginning to end is, women making products at home in their kitchen, using essential oils and things of that nature. And then, before you know it, they're researching to find out what is an emulsifier. How do I get these things to mix and stay on my hair and not, look flaky or show up, but still allow me to have this polished look. And we see that has now transcended into these home processes turning into being scaled up large manufacturing endeavors. And so I think that has also lent itself to a change in the landscape, because I think we're starting to explore more at home. We think about COVID and what that, forced us to do, which was to spend more time at home. I know for me personally, I have a lot of friends that started to garden, who started to can. And we know that, those types of experiences can also increase curiosity in the STEM areas. So I'm excited to see, where we go with STEM and how things move forward and how we continue to expand the landscape of what it looks like for generations to come.
I love it. I absolutely positively love it. I mentioned in a previous interview about I see future me, and you are absolutely right. The images of what a woman can be in STEM have broadened so much. I mean, hair care is a perfect example. Starting at home, starting from scratch. There are so many things, young ladies, women who are interested in STEM, that you can actually do on your own. There is a connection, I would say, between STEM and entrepreneurship, and being able to use those skills, use what is of interest to you, and use what you have available and accessible to you to broaden not just your understanding, but to solve problems. I mean, as an engineer, that's what we do. And I think that seeing a variety of roles that women play across that spectrum, entrepreneurship in the laboratory, doing research, market research, branding, all of those things lend itself to exploration and innovation. So I 100% agree with that. I want to dovetail a little bit into, we've talked about the opportunities and how you see yourself and how you've grown in your journey, but let's talk about some challenges. What are some of the challenges that you've seen as a woman in this, I say, in the spaces that you've been in? And you can talk from the professional standpoint, the personal standpoint, and what have you done to overcome and or use those challenges to propel you forward?
I think that's an excellent question. I have experienced those challenges firsthand, again, because I think the idea of what scientists look like, I think that's still, evolving. And I'm excited to see that it is becoming more diverse to include more women and more minorities as well. And so I would say, I recall a specific experience having done some research with the National Institute of Health my senior year in college. I traveled to Tanzania, East Africa, to do some research. And I would say the professors and scientists that we worked with had some, very preconceived notions about the capabilities of my female colleagues and I to contribute to the project on which we were collaborating. I would venture to say that perhaps some of that had to do with their cultural norms. But I believe by the end of our time there, they began to see our input as being a valuable asset to the project that we were working on. So I think it involves us as women in the STEM area, looking for ways to give input, looking for ways to be a valuable asset to the lab setting that you're working in, to the research that you are conducting, or just looking for that unfilled niche, as you mentioned, if we're thinking about STEM from a commercial standpoint, what can you contribute that's not already present? So I think it depends on the area of STEM that you're working in and how you can look to contribute. I would even venture to say, moving into education and teaching chemistry, there were some preconceived notions about what a chemistry teacher should look like. Whether that, came from, my students' parents and what their experience was, what they've seen on TV, what they've seen in movies. But I think that kind of served as fuel, if you will, for me to be innovative in the way that I approach classroom instruction, to make science and chemistry specifically exciting for my students in ways that they had never imagined that it could be. So I would say to any woman that is considering pursuing a career in STEM, or who is embarking on that journey already, is one, you have to be confident in who you are and in your knowledge base and what you can bring to the field, and continue to look for opportunities to be a contributor. You may look for the opportunity to be, you may have the goal of being first author on a paper, but it may take a few other papers where your name isn't listed first, to kind of make your presence known. But I think that it is a journey worth traveling. And I think the more women that we see traverse that pathway, I think there will be more to follow.
Definitely. I consider you and a host of other women is our future. I mean, there's room at the table for all of us. So Dr. Marcy Rice for president, that's what I'm just gonna put out there.
Stop it.
No.
Stop it. And I also want to give you your flowers as well. When we first met and knowing of the work that you were doing, I think you were working for Eli Lilly at the time, and being, a chemical engineer, to me was fascinating, because you were doing the work at the time that I was looking to do and excited about doing. So thank you for being that tangible role model. I think a lot of times for youth in general, they aspire to see who's on TV, or now who's on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram. But I think there's something to be said about having tangible role models that you can reach out to and seek for advice or for guidance. I think those role models are perhaps more influential than those that aren't as tangible. Not to say that they can't serve as inspiration or as role models, but I would encourage any woman who is considering pursuing a career in STEM, find a mentor, find several mentors who can guide you and provide insight and share their experiences as well to help you navigate that landscape.
100%. I'm foot stopping over here. I mean, there were several women that made a difference in my life. My chemistry teacher, was a female that came out of industry that taught very hard nosed, and she inspired me to just seek beyond what I could see, what I could think, and just shoot for the stars. And that is so important. So for those of you out there that are listening, hopefully Dr. Rice will give us some information where you can reach out to her. She is a wonderful person, because I know her personally. She is a leader, and I believe, if you ask nicely, will be more than happy to talk to you and encourage you as you are pursuing your goals. And so it's good that you talked about mentors, because that was going to be my next question. Who inspired you? I mean, I know we talked about your upbringing, but
Ooh.
yeah, I know, right? It's a long list. So
Wow.
Who inspired you to not just start your journey professionally, but you can talk personally too, to help shape who we're seeing today?
Wow, that is how much time do we have? That's a very loaded question. As you know, because we know each other well. That's a very, very long, long list. Wow, I would say from just a personal standpoint, my mom, my grandmother, my godmothers, several women, in my community, who I now have the opportunity to call my sisters in sorority, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, really nurtured me, whether in the most overt ways, right? Like my mom, my grandmother, my godmothers, or if there were, subtle moments where they provided inspiration or guidance, or it may just generally been their presence in the way that they carried themselves and presented themselves as women. I think that those influences are primary. In terms of moving into deciding to shift to education, I think I've had great teachers all throughout my K-12 experience, even moving into my years in college. I had a wonderful chemistry professor, African-American woman, Dr. Willie Darby at Hampton University, who really, guided me and pushed me to really do my best work and pursue opportunities outside of the classroom setting as it pertains to science and research, as well as, my high school chemistry teacher, which I spoke about. I think in terms of STEM, I would definitely put you on that list, as well as another friend from my hometown, Dr. Tamisha Jones, who I believe she's a biomedical engineer, and she's done a lot of work and a lot of research at a variety of universities. But again, I think it's about those tangible role models that can inspire you, lead you, guide you, even if they aren't in the field of STEM. As you mentioned, working in an industry, that's a whole nother world from your university lab setting, which was where, I did most of my work. When you're talking about industry, it's scaled up. It's a different animal, and that's something that you really have to be ready for, because it requires some stamina and perseverance, and also the research role at the collegiate level as well. And I think, again, if you aren't able to find STEM mentors, just great, phenomenal women in your family and in your community, because they're going to be able to instill in you characteristics that'll help you maneuver in the world of STEM.
I humbly agree. And I would list some of those same women for me as well. You talked about characteristics. So I'm going to ask you, you don't have to list a gaggle, but what are your top 3 characteristics, speaking to our young folks out there, and frankly, of any age, that are your go-tos, that, okay, I embody this and this has helped me not just be successful in my career, but successful in life and in my pursuits, as we go on our daily journey. Give us a couple, or as many as you'd like.
Ooh, wow. Again, another loaded question. I would say, first and foremost, you have to be grounded in who you are. If you are a spiritual person, I think staying connected to God and or whatever higher source or power you connect with, I think that's important. I would say, being confident, not sweating the small stuff, and just maintaining a personal peace. I think that helps people around you to feel calm and to feel confident, especially in the research world where you are collaborating. You're collaborating with other scientists, but you're working with other personalities. And so you can't forget the people component of the work. And so that's important as well. Whether you're working side by side with someone at the lab bench, or you're reaching out to a professor at another, research setting because you need a certain cell line that they have, and you're just trying to call in, a favor for something that you're trying to get done. So the people skills are important. Be able to effectively communicate and to do so in a professional manner. I would also say, you have to be mindful of the fact that you never know who's watching. And so that should always influence, how you treat people, how you interact with people, maintain a strong code of ethics in terms of how you make decisions. That's important too. I would say, research can become very, very competitive. In some instances, very, very cutthroat. I mean, we've seen it, historically with, the race to find, our recent COVID vaccine. Of course, those ins and outs weren't shared publicly because the focus was on the public health crisis. But I imagine when we look at those companies and trying to develop the most effective vaccine first, that became, a very tension-filled environment. So those are some things that come to mind. First and foremost, be an avid reader, stay on top of what's current in research and in the world, because as we said earlier, sometimes your contribution to as a woman in STEM isn't going to come from conventional research. It may come from a need or interest outside of the research world that you then bring into that setting. So those are some things that come to mind. I would say also maintain a balance. Whether you're working in industry or the research setting, your days and nights can be filled with nothing but work. And if you don't have a sense of balance, it will be difficult for you to produce at your highest levels. Even in education, if you are a STEM educator, you need that balance. So I would say that. And then, as I said earlier, maintaining sense of self, and finally have fun. Do work that you are passionate about. If you're not passionate about this work, don't do it. It can be an interest, it can be a hobby, but this work, any work, honestly, should require a certain level of passion. And so really do some soul searching about your decision to move into this arena. Make sure that it's the right fit for you.
I love it. I hope that you all were taking notes. She just dropped some knowledge. Okay, everybody should have had their pencil and paper out. So let me parrot back to you 3 things that struck out to me. People, I can attest to that. Being able to work and deal with people and addressing some of your stuff at any age is helpful because it's just going to lend itself as you grow and mature. You mentioned passion. Clearly, we have a passion. Both of us have worked a full day. And we are here talking to each other, inspiring the next generation of leaders because we love it. And so I say thank you very much for, again, lending your time. And then you said reading, being an avid reader. I love it, love it, love it. So, I'm going to sneak in a question. Either give us your favorite book or the last book that you have read, or a book that really spoke to you.
Wow, there are a few. I will say that I am currently reading Barack Obama's Promised Land, because as a leader, I look to be inspired in that work. And so I have found that work to be his book to be very inspirational, to kind of read the behind the scenes thoughts and actions as it pertains to some of the public decisions that we were made privy to during his, both terms as president. I will say another book that I really enjoy, I read a lot of Michael Eric Dyson because I love how he pairs politics with hip hop. And so he has a book, the title currently escapes me, where he compares the rise of Jay-Z, Nipsey Hussle, and I want to say LeBron James, to that of our early tycoons like Vanderbilt and JP Morgan, and just asking the questions about, are there parallels that exist between their entrepreneurial pursuits? And if so, should the same just do be given? So I'm currently reading Promised Land, and I would recommend anything by Michael Eric Dyson, especially, if you are of the hip hop generation. Those references allow you to be engaged and to explore it beyond the music, because there are other correlations that can be made for sure.
That's good. I'm going to, if you aren't taking notes, we're going to provide a link to those books that she just mentioned. Shameless plug. for the authors. But again, those are books that I definitely am going to be interested in listening to myself. Dr. Rice, I have one more question for you. This question I have asked to all of my guests. So
Okay.
I'm going to ask you to name a woman, if you could talk to any woman in the world, alive or deceased, who would it be and what would you ask her?
Wow. Again, I saw that question. I was like, I don't know that I can answer that question. So I thought about what a cliche answer would be, and then I thought about what a personal answer would be. And so I think when we're talking about when we're trying to help others understand our journey, I think it's important to talk about the why. There's an author, Simon Sinek. I've heard him speak, but he talks about the why and why that's important. And it's a great video clip that I've watched a few times, and I've shared it with my faculty. And he closes out one of his speeches where he talks about, I think one of his TED Talks, he talks about the March on Washington. And he talks about how it occurred at a time where there was no internet, may have had telephone. But he talks about the number of people that came to Washington. Of course they came because, Martin Luther King was speaking, but that's not what brought them there. They came there because who they believed they were as people, they felt that aligned with who Martin was. They felt a connection to his why and to his cause. And so I think for me, if I could speak to any woman, you said alive or deceased, I think that I would want to talk to my great grandmother on my grandmother's side of the family. Sometimes late at night, she would talk to me about family members that had passed on, and she mentioned that she was a young girl shortly, when slavery ended. And so I would just want to share with her my journey, the journey of those ancestors, those women in between, and ask her, would you have ever imagined that any of this would have been possible? Is this I'm sure, I would want to hear that it was beyond her wildest dreams, because that is how I choose to live my life in a manner that not only satisfies my own curiosities, my own personal goals, but I like to live in a way that makes others proud, that makes my mother proud, that would make my godmother proud, that would make my grandmother proud, because I think it's important to understand that connection and that legacy. And I think that's what being a woman in STEM is about, is understanding the legacy that you are a part of and the legacy that you're seeking to continue.
Beautiful. Beautiful. You are the second guest that has reached back into their lineage to pull forward an ancestor that they would love to talk to. And I think that is not by accident. That is the tremendous impact, ladies and gentlemen, that women have and that we pass down. We celebrate it for 31 days, but I encourage you, celebrate women every day. Celebrate yourself. Celebrate the woman that you are. If you are a young adult, celebrate the woman that you want to be, because we need you. Dr. Rice and I'm making space for you so that when somebody 50 years from now asks that same question, they may actually ask it about you and see the benefit of the work you've done. That was so touching. So as custom, I give all of my guests the opportunity to have the last word. Anything that you would like to share with our audience?
Nothing other than just some words of encouragement. Continue the work. It's important. It's relevant, not just to our presence as women in STEM, but again, just to continuing to have a positive impact on the advancement of our global society. If anyone wants to reach out, you may do so via email, and that's at Marcie, MARRCIE @yahoo.com. I'm more than happy to connect, to collaborate, to communicate for the purpose of moving us forward. So thank you so much for this opportunity, Karen. Of course, I'm always at your disposal Thank you for being a great sister and being a great friend.
Yes, you are my sister. If you didn't know, I'm smiling because I have love in my heart for Dr. Rice. She knows that. You are, I've been saying this word, and I don't care. I'm gonna repeat it again. You're amazing. You are amazing, and I want to thank you
Right
from the
back
bottom of
at
my
you.
heart for being who you are and blazing the trail for your students, for your community. You are doing it, and you are doing it with excellence. So
Well, thank
again,
you. It means a
thank
lot to
you
hear you say
so very much. Have no fear. I'm going to
that.
put all of the information in the description and
Okay.
YouTube so that you can link and you can find her and have some coffee. Set up some time.
Yeah.
I have to say this before we finish. Young folk, there is such a thing as informational interviews. Pick up that phone. Y'all are on.
Yeah,
Y'all
of
on
course.
here all the time.
Yeah.
We are busy, but I've put women at your disposal who I really believe would bless you and would really serve as mentors and just folks that you could ask questions to. So please take advantage of them. Again, thank you all for watching Feet Planted LLC. It is my honor to celebrate women. Please stay tuned. We are going to continue this throughout March. We're going to have another woman, but I am going to end with thanking again Dr. Marcy Rice for taking time out to share with us and just have a great time. I could continue to talk to you for some more time.
But, don't forget to click like and click subscribe.
That's my girl. That's right. Click like and subscribe. I love it. I love it. Until we talk again, folks, I want you to have a great day. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching my video. I bring fresh content to you every week on Wednesday. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you can get notified when I update my content every Wednesday.